Meeting is being live streamed, it says.
Just a second here.
We're live. I'm not sure about the recording.
Okay. Okay, I think we're good to go. Oh, we lost Mario. I'm just letting him back in.
Oh,
Okay, Madam Chair, we're ready to start the meeting.
okay. All right. Welcome everybody to the Municipal Truth and Reconciliation Committee meeting for Monday, April 25th, 2022. It's 5 p.m. We're meeting via Zoom, so I shall call the meeting to order. That's number one. I'm the chair. I'm Darlene Ashkenab. Number two, we shall have the land acknowledgement by our mayor, Doug Lawrence.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. And as we start our meeting, we acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Sioux First Nation within Treaty 3, and that many of the people and communities we service in Sioux Lookout are in Treaties 5 and 9, known as the Anishinaabe Nation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right. Item number 3 on the agenda is the agenda. 3A, introduction of amendments to the agenda. Anybody? I see no hands or nobody waving. Okay. So we'll go on to 3B, confirmation of the agenda. Anybody want to move it?
Yep, I will.
Candace?
Yep.
Okay, Candace will move it. We need seconder.
Second, Lynn.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, number 4, declarations of pecuniary interest. It says there are none. So we'll move quickly on to number 5, adoption of minutes from the March 21st, 2022 meeting. So I read them. They seem to look okay. Anybody else have any comments on them? No changes? So then we shall adopt the minutes of March 21st, 2022 meeting then. We need a mover.
I can move that, Lynn.
Lynn? Okay, Lynn will move. Seconder. Mario? Yes. Okay, thank you. Yep. That's it for that. And then item number 6, business arising from the minutes. 6A is the cemetery bylaw update by Michelle LaRose. Can't hear you.
There we go. Sorry about that. Thank you through you, Chair. At the meeting on March 21st, Councillor Timpson requested an update on the cemetery bylaw report was to come back, and that report was assigned. There was no specific date when it was to come back to the committee. I did talk to Brian McKinnon, because he is our manager of corporate services and clerk that oversees the cemetery and the bylaws with reference to the cemetery. He said the earliest he could come back with a report to the committee is in June. So it will be coming back in a future meeting in the near future.
Okay. So that's the update then. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you. And 6B, Umferville Park Historical Information. And this is being presented by Mario, our committee member.
There we go. Apologize for not making the last meeting. but hospitals can keep you busy. I've done quite a bit of research into this, or I've looked quite a bit into this whole situation and about Umfraville, especially at Umfraville Park. There is nothing there within his book or anything I could find on the internet that Mr. Umfraville spent any time at that particular location. It would seem as if, in my opinion, that somebody wanted to have some sort of historical significance here in Sioux Lookout. So Umfraville is basically the only one that was kind of in the area who documented it. And in the book, Nipigon to Winnipeg, a canoe voyage through Western Ontario, the introduction starts as this: the romance of the fur trade in Ontario has yet to be written. The material at the historian's disposal is scanty. Trading posts and traders were numerous, but the traders themselves, both during the French regime and under the succeeding British rule, has left few records in the successes they achieved and hardships they endured. This writing by Mr. Umfraville is one of the rare documentations of this area. What I found was this area was basically one of the last areas that the Europeans came into. It was so isolated. The Hudson Bay Company, what they did was they came in through Hudson Bay, and they went down the Albany, and they set up trading places all over the place back in the 1700s. Let's see if I can kind of do this. In a document I found, it's called the Northwestern Ontario and Early Contact Period, the Northern Ojibwe from 1615 to 1715, an article written by Kenneth C.A. Dawson. He says this is a contact between the Ojibwe and the Cree with the French was in the 1600s, the early 1600s. The contact with the English didn't come till later in the 1700s. And I think it was 1693 where Britain and France made a peace treaty. So the British were coming in from Hudson Bay down the Albany, but the French were coming in the north shore of the Great Lakes. So when the French got out, the Northwest Company started up, and it came in through that area. The reason why the Hudson Bay did not come in north of the Great Lakes is because they didn't want, because in order to do so, they would have to go through other First Nation lands, like the Huron and the Ojibwe, or not the Ojibwe, the Iroquois and the Algonquin and some other tribes I forget. And anyway, of course, everybody wants a piece of the pie, even back then, right? So in order to get away from that, the Brits came in from the north down the Albany, and that's where they set up their main post. I don't know how far I should go into this. So anyway, the French, they were the first to capture the first market at Michipicoten, which is Wawa. And in 1714 until 1763, which is the Treaty of Paris. And then when the French retreated, independent traders like Alexander Henry, they moved in from 1763 to 1783. And the Northwest didn't take over till 1784, which was when Mr. Umfraville made his trip. And the French called it the Chemiste route. I don't know how to say that, was first discovered by Jacques de Noyon in 1688. He was a trader from Quebec who spent the winter of 1688 with the First Nations on the Lake of the Woods. So the point being here is that nothing had ever been written about Northwestern Ontario and the fur trade because they were fur traders. Mr. Umfraville was not a fur trader. He was not a discoverer. He was a writer, and that's what his job was for the Hudson Bay Company and for the Northwest Company. Now, when he went on his journey, leaving from Wawa, can I use Wawa because it's just an easier name for me. I can't, of Michi Picotin, right? There wasn't just him. There was 8 of them. There was him. There was a man by the name of Venant Saint Germain, who plays a major role in this whole part of it. But he's, you don't hear much about him because the writer kind of ignores him. And then there was 6 other fur traders that the Northwest sent with them. Should I continue on like this, or should I just leave? You know, I can give you what I found. You know, I've got, so they employ 2 people on who they can depend on. But my point being is that I believe that the decisions were made by Saint Germain because of his, it'll come out later. Well, he owned Michipotin, whatever it is, the fur trading, he owned that and he sold it to the Northwest Company. And all of a sudden he ended up going on this trip with Saint Germain, and his job was to document it. So I've got down here in the notes that I brought in there, I've got read about, should have been Mr. Saint Germain, as he was really a bigger player than that. So let's see here. I'm going to try to go through this really quickly here. Okay, on page, what I did was I went through here and I took actual quotes from that book, where first of all, they had problems acquiring guides, Indigenous guides. And the reason that was because the French who were in there prior to 1763, what happened was they were smart enough, and I think, you know, it's my opinion again, to learn their customs, to learn the way the Ojibwe did things, to be very respectful. And the French, what they did was they started to mix with the Ojibwe and Cree by marrying them, and out comes the Métis. Now the English, when they came in, they were harsher, more dominant, more prudent, didn't respect the ways of the First Nation. So when Umfreville comes in there, he has a hard time acquiring guides and keeping guides. It's odd in this book where his guides keep quitting on him, and you got to ask the question, why? So anyway, that's what I gathered from that. There was a lot of people. The book makes reference to John Long, who was a trader, who traded west of Lake Nipigon 8 years before Umfreville even came on the scene. The book also states, and these are in quotes, for almost 100 years after Father Alouez visited Lake Nipigon in 1667, and remember it's 1784 that Umfreville took his trip. The French held undisputed sway on it, and latterly, at any rate, there was a constant stream of traders to it. So Umfreville, he even mentions in his writings about 2 French posts. It seems as if Umfreville was the only one aware of the trade routes of the Ojibwe, but the Ojibwe, the Métis, and the French, they knew the area for many, many years. It was a way to establish the Northwest Company for them to learn the area because they were first starting out. But it wasn't as if he was a discoverer and came in and found a new route or anything like that. They already knew about it. It was for almost 200 years. On page 7, I've got in the year, this is a quote, in the year 1784, he noticed forming trading houses on Chicaf Lake, Sturgeon Lake, and Lac Sioux. Before this time, as John Long informs us, independent traders also wintered on Minnetaki and Tide Lake, all through Umfreville. And all through his thing, Umfreville was making comments about this lake and that lake, and they were already named. It's not that he named them. They were named by prior people that came through it. So it would appear that the English were unaware of how to get there through the Northwest Company, because Hudson Bay was coming in from the north. So I found on page 14, Umfreville states, the Indians that have been absent from us had killed several jackfish on our arrival. So the guides were even feeding them. They really didn't have a grasp of how to survive out there. And on page 16, Umfreville, he's having problems keeping his guides. And when all of them had left, he writes, "We tried for fish in the lac." I don't know if that means lac Sioux, but he calls it the lac. He wasn't French. But the meshes on the nets are too large. I thought that was funny because for a whole number of reasons. There was even on 16 also, he writes there about his guide who wants to leave to attend to his sick wife. You know, like, geez, that's something today. If your wife is sick, you just do it. But he writes, every reasonable promise is made to persuade him, or is made to him to persuade him to continue the journey. But Indians will be Indians to the last of the chapter. This is a problem, and I find that a problem to this very day in Siouxlacot, where we pigeonhole people to their ethnic background and versus to individualism. I mean, I want to be known as Mario Rossetti. I don't want to be known as an Italian or a Wop or a Stick or a Dago, or I want to be known as Mario Rossetti. And that's still a huge problem that we have here. And it just continues on from way back in the 1700s. And then on June the 24th, the guide agrees to stay on. I don't know why, but Umfreville writes, how long he may keep his word, time may determine, but nothing but absolute necessity would induce a person to have anything to do with a man of every bad quality and whose mind is as black as his outward skin. Really? Okay, that's the guy that we're. So anyway, on page 20, the guy, he changes his mind and he leaves to see his wife. Umfreville writes, the distresses we are in for a guide is very great. So he doesn't know what to do now. He's all confused. He doesn't know where to go. But Umfreville, he's fortunate, and he finds another guide on June the 26th, but he does not trust him. And he writes, this fellow possesses the duplicity of the devil himself. He adds, but our situation is such, we must accept him or give up the voyage. He has no idea. He's like a passenger in the boat. And if he doesn't have an engineer to navigate this train down the trail, he's got to sit there idle and wait. So, you know, he's ready to take credit for everything, but he really doesn't have any of the attributes. And on the 27th, his Ojibwe guide quits, and Umfreville writes, the guide said this morning he would go no further, so that we were, and I found this just shocking, so that we were resolved to wait there until the French people passed by. So the French were already there. They're aware of the situation. They know how to tell him what's going on. And he's going to sit there and wait for the French to show up. You know, I also found this bit. It's this report. It's called the Historical Roots of the Métis Community north of Lake Superior, because what I'm finding is the Métis originated, you know, not just in Manitoba, but up here in our area. And it goes through Michipay Coton, the trading post, where there's Alexander Henry, blah, 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 in the business. And then where he sells it to Jean-Baptiste Nolan, I guess, and Venant Saint-Germain. There he is again. He is the guy who accompanies Umfreville, is on that canoe, but yet we don't know anything about him. We don't know anything about the 6 other traders. We just know about the guy who wrote the book. And that's what he was hired to do. He was hired to provide all that. And if you go through this, I should have put this all in quotations because that's what it is. It's a quote right from there. And they make records of Lake Minnetaki and Lac Sioux and Sturgeon and all these areas. They all had names. There was a vibrant economic system already in this area before Umfraville came along. They just didn't know the route. They were trying to, they wanted to come in to compete with the Hudson Bay, but they didn't know anything about the area. So that's what his job was. He wasn't a discoverer or anything like that. And so, I'm looking at Saint Germain and I'm saying, why did, like, here he is, he owns the outpost, and then all of a sudden now he's in that boat, hired by the people who he sold the trading point. Like, there's more going on there than just that. So after I read this book, and it, you know, I hope everyone, you know, well, not, if you want to read the book to see if you get the same synopsis as I do. But I write down here, I'm not sure what it is that Umfraville did historically anyway. The route he discovered was never used as a major route, was longer than the existing major route, had 46 more portages, and was 3 to 4 weeks longer in time. In fact, his route was suitable to small canoes only, namely birch bark canoe, and there was difficulty acquiring them as the builders were limited to the Ojibwe only. The area he traveled through was well known to the Ojibwe, Métis, and French. He was definitely not the first in any sense. He failed to name anything because they were already well known. His route was not really viable from any standpoint, other than it was located on Crown land. Umfraville's entire voyage was dependent on others, including the mode of transport, food, and direction. Without others to guide him and show him, he was content to sit idle and wait for someone to come along and show him the way. Okay, and given his feelings for the Ojibwe, he was content to utilize them for his own gain and take credit for an adventure that he could not have completed without the Ojibwe know-how. I write something down here, and I don't know, maybe we can talk about it at some other time, where wherever Pelican Narrows is, there's a number of Sioux skulls from that war that they had at Sioux Mountain. One thing I would like to read to you, and I'm trying to go through this as fast as I can. It was another article that I forwarded to you that's not on this agenda, which I thought it was really, really interesting. It's called The Anishinaabe Nation, A History of the Cree and Ojibwe of Northern Ontario. And they write, and they substantiate, in the early 1600s was the French, and then the Brits, they sailed into the waters of the Hudson and James Bay. By the 1670s, trading posts were established around Rupert, Moose, Albany, and Severn Rivers. And that's how they were going. And on page 15 of that article, it'll show a map that actually shows you how the French were coming in and how the Brits were coming in from the north. But they write, the Cree and Ojibwe, that's not me saying this, this is a quote, the Cree and Ojibwe were absolutely necessary in the fur trade. Their skills for survival in the woods, their sound knowledge of the geography, their skill in building and handling canoes, their transportation techniques, and their trapping skills were needed to collect furs for the European culture. The Indian was useful not only for getting fur, but also for hunting game, for food, for gathering birch bark, for carrying supplies, and for guiding the newcomers. The way that I'm reading this is Europeans were passengers. And that's what I found on the topic. It's very, very hard. Like I looked and looked and looked, and there's nothing written about Umfraville, really. It's out of that book. And that book, he wrote it in 1784. It wasn't published till 1929. And for the reason that there was nothing else ever written about Northwestern Ontario. And that's all I've got to bring to the committee.
Okay, anybody? Joyce.
He said, that's all. I said, that's quite a lot.
Well, I was digging, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
I was trying to find some sort of justification why that was Umberville Park. There's no indication that he even touched his toe on the shore there. I know people in Sioux like some of them, like we had some emails and stuff like that. Say, well, he's got historical significance and he's got a history of it. And I looked for that history. I looked hard and I couldn't find anything. I mean, nothing. And I challenge someone if somebody can do that for me, I would appreciate it. I would like to be proven wrong, but I couldn't find nothing.
Should we reach out to Ontario Heritage Trust, because they're the ones that have it, like they're the one that named the park?
No, I did not.
Maybe I'll do that.
It's usually a political thing for them. They don't go out and usually don't go out and do it, especially up here in northwestern Ontario. It would have to be, maybe it came from council, maybe it came from, I don't know who.
Well, there's the Umberville plaque there, and that comes from the Ontario Heritage Trust.
Yeah, passed this way. But if you read the plaque, it doesn't say he was there. He passed this way. It passed. Like if you read the book, the book that I read, it even said that even following the directions that he provided, the mapping was so poor, they really don't know what his route was. It's
It's Lynn here.
Okay.
This is the story of how Canada was made. This is a perfect example of how the history or the storyteller makes the history, even though the stories do not reflect what actually happened. And this is part of truth and reconciliation at its finest. If people knew other perspectives or stories of how this great country was made, perhaps there would be other names for places. And what I'm thinking about is, that whole energy that happened in the United States of America with the coming down of statues and things like that. When the truth came out about some of those great, I don't know, statues, bronze, it was the storytellers who put those stories out from a perspective, from a very colonial perspective. And so what I'm seeing here is that the storyteller of Umberville, it's from himself. And hey, you ever watch that show Black Fly way back? It was a CBC. It was about a couple of traders who it was a comedy. And that's exactly what I'm hearing from Mario, is that this is comedy. It could be it could be a very funny play. You could play on what that story says, but it's one story, right? I don't know how many stories are out there, or people who've passed on oral tradition of their encounters with the fur traders and the settlers and everything. But I'll tell you something. Settlers tell the story, so settlers will set the tone for it. And I'm not from this area, Mario. And to be honest, I would be embarrassed to have such a character, with such prominence in our proud little town here. I don't know, but I mean, I appreciate what you've looked into, but it's a prime example of whose story is being told, whose story is being what do you call it, memorialized. You know, it's yeah, and yeah, I really appreciate this because I'm just like, wow, yeah, I could write a comedy about this, about this man who was a passenger with people who were trying to make their way to Winnipeg. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you, Lynn. Anybody else? Joyce? Sorry.
Sorry. Oh, yeah, I think it'd be really interesting to, if we can verify all that and with whatever name we come up with, to have that, a real succinct version of that on a plaque. And it used to be called Umfraville, but this is the story of Umfraville, etc. And this is why we're calling it whatever. Yeah. I mean, I'd be interested. We're talking like 1700s, right? Are we? Is it the late 1700s we're talking? Is that right, Mario? Late 1700s?
1784. Sorry.
Okay, so I don't know. Is there any way there could be? Who was the chief of Lac Sioux at that? I mean, if we knew, I mean, probably. Maybe we don't know, but you know what I mean? If we could find something from that era from Lac Sioux, if somebody would know, it'd be, throw it in. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents worth.
Yeah. Okay, Mayor, did you?
Sure. Thanks, Mario. I can't match anything that you've done there. That's a lot of work. Thank you. I can mangle the pronunciation probably better than you can on Michipicoten because I said it many times. I've sailed by it on a sailboat several times in Lake Superior, Michipicoten Island. So it's still named that, and it's still referenced as Michipicoten Island. Absolutely. Down more towards the Sault Ste. Marie end, and probably just south of Wawa in the lake. It was that near there where the Edmund Fitzgerald went down. Actually, the song that Gordon Lightfoot memorialized in a song. And another name that you referenced in, you're going to get a feeling that I have spent a lot of time on Lake Superior, and I have. Another name you referenced in the book was Alexander Henry, and if you might recognize that was the icebreaker that serviced Lake Superior and other Great Lakes for decades. I think it was the Alexander Henry. It was called Henry. It was decommissioned sometime, I think, in the last 10 or 15 years, but it served as an icebreaker that it carried his name. Just points of interest. There is history that runs through all of this, and whether it's good history, bad history, or whatever, there's history through there.
Okay. Yes, Mario. Thank you.
I'm glad that you, the very ending of I agree with you, everything that you've said. The very ending, you said it was history. And I guess that's my point with Umfraville Park. We know factually that Umfraville passed this way. But there is no direct reference, factual evidence of him being at that spot. However, we know factually that the Ojibwe have spent centuries, like we go, 1784. Well, that's nothing. They were there for thousands of years. Like we know they were there. They have left arrowheads and artifacts at that area. And that's confirmed by archaeologists. So that's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay. Yes, Victor.
Yeah, there has been numerous arrowheads and artifacts found there that I can even verify. I've got people that I know that comb the shorelines yearly, and they find stuff. And there's even people that are digging up on top of the hill, and they're finding ceramics and stuff like that. That you can actually see how you can tell the difference between the pottery too, because European pottery seems to be a little bit more thicker and has a slight shiny glaze on the outside. But the Ojibwe pottery is a lot thinner, and there's actual little markings and stuff on the outside. It kind of beautification process, I guess they did too, or something like that. But also too, there's great evidence there just naturally because of that's one of the things that I teach students when I talk to kids in schools on a regular basis about how we find sage these days. And when we look for sage these days, one of our favorite places to find sage is at the railway tracks. And with that being said, when out in the Manitoba, um, they they try to do their best to keep the wild sage growing into their fields, eh? So that's where we go and pick it on the sides of the roads and the back roads and stuff like that. And sometimes you find places where there's plenty of fields just open up. But in the process of harvesting, some of those seeds get in there and then they get put into the grain trains and they come this way by Sioux. And as they go past the railway crossings, they kind of slow down and shake, and some of those seeds get blown out. And it's a perfect environment, very mirroring the same thing as out west, because it's open, it's dry, sandy soil, and the sage takes and it proliferates quite well. So with that said, a long time ago, when in the time of birch bark canoes and traders, um, there was no trains going by. There's no train tracks currently by Umferville Park. But if you go down Umferville Park and you go down those big steps, and you get to the bottom where that benches off to this side where it's opened up on this side on your left hand side where it's opened up, there's a series of tiny little silver plants there, and that's all sage. So people have spent numerous times visiting there and trading, not just not pots and pans and stuff like that, but medicines and different things like that, like corn and stuff like that. It's right there written in the land of how these people have been at this place for thousands of years. We don't even know how old that strain of sage is, but the people that look after that place keep cutting it, and so it's stunted. It doesn't grow very big anymore. And that's one thing I wouldn't mind looking into, trying to figure out how old that sage is at some point, if possible. I don't even know if it's possible, but yeah, I mean, like, just to further that point of how the land even speaks to you. Never mind what you find on the shore, just the land itself. Miigotch.
All right. Thank you. From what I heard with Mario, I guess it seemed like the French knew where they were going. So I'm just wondering if somehow they documented in French land, or if Hudson Bay maybe had some information. Did somebody map out the area or have any history that they heard about? It sounded like Umferville kept losing his guides, and who knows why. I don't know. There's also the settlement of Umferville on the eastern part of of town here. And then I could hear the names, the sturgeon and the Chicago Lake, and that area. So yeah, so I don't know if we'll come up with any other history unless we know where else to go, where else to find things. And from what I can it doesn't seem to really offer anything. Candace says she might check into the Ontario Heritage Trust. We can still wait for more information regarding the Umferville Park. And I think the only other insight we might get is from the survey, if there's any possible history, oral history that has been passed down, you know, from Lac Seul, from the elders, you know, so that's the only other way that, you know, the name of that area would have an indigenous name. For now, I guess it's Umferville, the guy who passed through, who wrote it down. Of course, he was a writer, and that's all we have right now, from what I can see anyway. Yes, Victor?
I know that through the meetings we had with the subcommittee, Garnet and Chief Bull were talking back and forth a great deal about hills being the ones that were probably the last ones that were settling in that area, and it would have any memory of it, I guess, or possible pictures even of people in that area or that area itself. So at that point, one of the things that Garnet had tabled, I guess, before I think one of our second last meeting or something like that, I'm not sure. But he suggested kind of casually, what if we just name it Hill Park? Because we were afraid of not afraid, but we didn't really want to give it an Ojibwe name because of how difficult it is for people to say Ojibwe words at times. So we were thinking about just that last name of Hill, just to honor their memory of those people that lived there too. So that was a quick thing about what we were doing in the last one.
Yeah. Okay, well, maybe we can hold off until next time while we meet with the Chief Bull couldn't be here at this meeting, so we'll ask him at the next meeting, possibly. But for now, at least Mario did a lot of research. So yes, Mario.
Just one more little comment.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know a John Fletcher, and is he still alive? Because in that document that I forwarded to everyone, Anishinaabe Aski Nation, A History of Cree and Ojibwe in Northern Ontario, they talk about on page 36, John Fletcher. He actually witnessed the signing of Treaty 9. So I'm wondering, it sounds as if he's got some history. It would be nice if.
Yeah. When I went to school in Sault Ste. Marie at Algoma University, and there was a Jim Fletcher, but he's probably not around. He was attending as a student there too, and he was an older man. And the only relative, I'm not sure. I think she's around by Timmins. There's other Fletchers. There are still Fletchers. Moose, what was that? I can't remember the name of their community, but they have their office in Garden River, but they don't have a land base. But they are along that Treaty 9 area. So we could do some investigating maybe into. So he was there to witness Treaty 9, the signing, you say?
Yeah, that's what it's got in this document. I sent it in as an attachment to everyone on the committee maybe about a week ago, and I thought it's really easy to understand. It's a really quick read, and plus it had pictures of different important leaders in our area from different nations up north. and around this area. And there was a picture there of John Fletcher, and they got a little write-up underneath about each one of these leaders. And it said right on there, he actually witnessed the signing of Treaty 9, which I thought was pretty impressive. But maybe there's some other names in there, and they got their pictures also that would be nice if they were still, with us and we could talk to them.
Okay. Who else? Hi, Eileen.
Sorry I was late, and then I had trouble getting into it, kept clicking on the link and it wouldn't open, but trying for quite a while to get in.
Okay, we just we're at 6B, discussing the Umferville Park historical information. Mario reviewed it and everything, and everybody's putting in their comments right now. So join in anytime if you have anything to add. Yes, Joyce.
Yeah, I was going to say, I missed the first part of Mario's, but the Hudson Bay Archives are very, I understand, really quite a rich source of information. They were, I imagine they're still in Winnipeg. Might be interesting to try to get hold of somebody there. There was a archivist there who was passionate about any question anybody had. I don't know, she may have retired, but it might be worth a call to them and just to see if they've got anything.
Okay.
You know who's done quite a lot in the Vera Camila-Lurcoy? There's an archaeologist, a woman whose name I can't remember, but the two of them did a sort of boat trip through Abram Lake and Pelican Lake, and actually took Umferville's diary with them and sort of followed along. But there's quite a lot of interesting stuff around on either side of Frog Rapids. And there used to be an old portage across to the north of Frog Rapids. Anyway, Vera knows a lot about that, and that would be somebody to talk to.
Okay. Okay, so is that it for now on Umferville? I know we're going to keep talking about it again, so I guess for now we'll just wait to see what other people can come up with. And I don't know about the Hudson Bay, who's going to do that.
Well, it's kind of like when you make a suggestion, you end up doing it. So I'll give them a call and see.
Okay, thanks. It'll be a start anyway.
Yeah.
And I'll see about the Fletchers. See if I can connect with anybody that way.
I wonder if the Indian Affairs archives would have anything as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you deal with them on the online. It would be.
Yeah, I think pretty well you have to phone the big library down there. Yeah, the big art library down there, and
yeah. Well, their Indian Affairs, I'm not sure how far back they would go. I mean, Indian Affairs, when was that, 1876 or something? So this would be way before then.
Yeah.
Unless there's something written orally or something that was recorded from testimony or something from First Nations.
Yeah, yeah.
From elders, maybe. Maybe.
PhD thesis. Anybody want to do a PhD thesis in history? Here you go. Here's your topic.
Yeah. Or make a movie on it or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
I'll phone Hudson Bay Archives
okay,
and see what they say. You
Yeah.
know, and they could. I have dealt with the National Archives in Ottawa. I mean, it really is a long process. It's a complicated process. I mean, you can do it if you've got the time, but
Yeah.
you just need patience. That's all.
yeah, I only went there one time
Mhm.
and it was so, it was an experience,
Yeah.
learning experience. We had to go into the RG10 section.
Yeah.
And that's where most of the First Nation documents are, and they have these spools, and you look at them; they're
Oh.
microphones, and everything is just going sideways. You're going to where you want to get, and you just get sick, like you get motion sickness.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I remember of the archives. Oh my goodness.
There is a lot. There's a lot of information, though, if you've got the patience to go through
Yeah.
it.
And I don't know how they do it online these days, if they do
Oh.
it online or, yeah, that's
Don't
another
know.
possibility. Yeah, to order whatever you want to try to get at.
Mm.
All right. Shall we move on then? And we'll leave this discussion again. Good discussion on us. For sure. Okay. So we'll move on to number 7, delegations, presentations, committee presentations. It says nil, so we have nobody to present to us this time. And number 8, items for discussion. So I guess in keeping with the theme of renaming and finding out history, 8A, Equeminist celebration. So the first bullet says committee members are to decide on a date for the celebration. So there were
Chair?
some dates. Yes.
You missed item A under items for discussion. I believe that's a separate article that Mario asked to have on the agenda, or is it?
Item A. I'm
It
not
was
sure
It was put out at a later date.
what I'm looking at here.
Sorry,
Yeah.
you
It's
might
the
be looking
next-
at the agenda was updated and posted to the meeting. A was non-Indigenous, Indigenous relations article. Mario wanted to speak to that.
All right.
That's A, and then Equeminist would be B.
Yes,
Okay.
sorry about that.
Oh,
You're probably looking at an older agenda that Tiffany had updated it.
okay. Indigenous and non-Indigenous. Sorry, say that again.
Relations article.
Oh, relations article. Okay. And Mario wanted to do that one. Okay, sure.
Okay, this is right up Joyce's alley here, where she was talking about a thesis and stuff like that. I found an article, it's called Contact Theory in a Small Town Settler Colonial Context, the Reproduction of Laissez-Faire Racism in Indigenous White Canadian Relationships and Relations. And it's an attachment. I didn't know what to do with this. I really didn't. But first of all, when you go through the article, anyway, it's written by Jeffrey S. Dennis, I guess. Anyway, he's associate professor at McMaster. And at first, there's a whole bunch of gobbledygook, and it would probably start at 223, where you could start reading it, which is a whole bunch of anyway. I don't know. I don't know what to do with it, and the reason why I'm saying that is this associate professor, what he did is he went to Northwestern Ontario and he calls the community Jack Pine. population of 8,000 people. At that time, I think it was 2015, 2016, which wasn't that long ago. Its main industry was forestry. And when you look at it, it sounds like Kenora. I mean, like big time Kenora. Anyway, it has to do with laissez-faire racism. And for an individual like myself, who does not believe that I'm a racist, it made me look inward. It has stuff in here where the individual, he goes into the community and he meets with Indigenous people and he meets with like the mayor and non-Indigenous, and he goes through and it's a really, really interesting article. What really got me was 2 months ago, and I apologize if I use your name, Darlene, where we were discussing Umperville Park, and you said, it looks as if Sioux Lookout's not ready yet for truth and reconciliation. And I have to admit that I was saddened to hear that, because it's something that I would, that our committee wants to move forward with for sure. Anyway, in this article, I really don't know how to explain it, and I don't know if any of you guys have ever read it. I know I'm really hoping Joyce would, because this is right up your alley, I'm telling you. It tells about racism not only from the prototype, the typical racist. It talks about racism within families where there's a European First Nation mix, and people that have friends with Indigenous and with white, and how they interact and how they intermingle through our regular day of life. Because like for us here in Sioux Lookout, we live together as a community, and so does Kenora. And this guy goes through and he brought up a lot of, it's a really, really interesting read. And I'm really, really hoping that you guys take a look at it. I don't know what to do with it, but I would love council to read this, actually. Like, it is, I think it's a really important document. I don't know what else I can say about it. Maybe Joyce can, because Joyce, this is your forte.
Really?
Yeah.
I
You don't
haven't
think
seen
so?
it. Send it to me.
Yeah. Well, I did. It's in the agenda.
Wait,
It's an attachment to
Oh, okay.
it came
All
in
right.
an attachment recently.
yeah. It's American Sociological Review. That's where it
no.
comes from.
I'm sorry, I didn't see the attachment. I just looked at the agenda in minutes. I'll take a look.
When was it written, Mark?
2016, I do believe. See, it's got like, even white individuals who have chosen Indigenous friends or spouses often express laissez-faire racism. 3 mutual reinforcement social processes, subtyping, ideological based homophilia, and political avoidance norms. And like I said, you'll go through the first part of it and it's like gobbledygook. But as you get into the meat later on, it's got a lot of very, very interesting stuff. Like, I don't know, it really, really affected me. And that's why I'm bringing it forward. I think it's an important paper. I really, really do. Like, we're talking about surveys. We're talking about surveys with Umperville Park. We're sending it out to all these people and stuff like that. But this is also a survey conducted by a guy who from McMaster University that has probably come up here. And he's conducted his own survey on more than just the bigot. He spreads it throughout the community. And for me, it made me look inward. And I think that was really important. And I think that we should all be looking inward in order for us to move forward. So that's why I put it on. I don't know what to do with it. It's just a really good paper.
Okay, so I guess we'll have to look for it if it's in our emails. I didn't come across it. I'm sorry.
I'm looking at it right now. It's quite long. And it's very academic language, so it's going to be a hard read, at least for me anyway.
It is at first. That's the gobbledygook I'm referring to. But as you get further on through, that's where the guy starts talking, and I apologize, English. He starts talking English, and where you go, oh, okay, I get you. Like when you go through the whole thing, like it starts on page 218, and I didn't find anything till around 223, 225, and then the very end of it is just how the guy. It's just part of the article, right? It's just his. I don't know what you call it, whatever, I forget. I've been out of school too long. Your references, acknowledgements, stuff like that. But I don't know, it's a great paper, I'm telling you.
Sounds interesting, and I think
What does he mean by laissez-faire?
it's.
What do you mean?
I looked it up. It
Okay.
says a policy or attitude of letting things take their own course without interfering. And we learned it in economics, I remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Abstention by governments from interfering in the workings of the free markets. In terms of economics, that's what it.
Just the policy my kids wanted to be brought up on is laissez-faire. Just leave us alone. We'll do it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I think this line from the article on very first page explains, it gives you a good example. Even white individuals who have close Indigenous friends or spouses often express laissez-faire racism. And it's the way we treat each other on a day-to-day basis. I don't know. I found it inspiring.
It's interesting, eh?
Mhm.
All right. Well, let's read it and comment on it next time then.
Yeah, because I think we see it in our communities
Yeah.
to a certain degree, and you know, I guess that's where the so-called anti-racism committee would come in again. But it's an interesting conversation to have, and we kind of see it, I think, in TV sometimes with the non-indigenous and non-indigenous when they had that show on the APTN Contact. There were 4 programs that were made, and they took all these non-indigenous people to different communities across Canada, and they had the older, the younger ones, and then some people, were very racist, and their mindset in certain ways. But then they learned about residential school, and they didn't realize there was a residential school in their hometown.
Yeah.
They never knew that.
That's
And
me.
so I think for us it's really good to look at these things and remind ourselves, I guess, and have these conversations if we need to bring somebody in who might have, and we've done that in the past, talking to other people who don't necessarily agree with reconciliation and that type of thing. So it's an interesting it's interesting, Indigenous, non-Indigenous relations, and to look at that. And even in our town, the social media, when things get posted, people are pretty quick to have opinions. You can't talk about certain things. You'll see the commentary turned off. They're not allowed to say certain things.
Wow.
And that's a racism right there that's happening.
Oh,
Yes, Eileen, you're frozen.
am I? Oh.
Okay. Okay, I'll look for it and read it. All right, so then I guess we'll go on to, if nobody else has anything to add, we'll go on to 8B, Equemenis celebration. Committee members are to decide on the date and then which committee member is coordinating what for the event. So we want to know the when and who's going to do what. Any ideas? When? We're in April right now, 4th month already. Ending of the 4th month.
Yeah, we could walk there.
Or go by dog sled. There was
I've been watching the ice out there, Mario. I'm going to pass on that too. I think
Oh.
be pretty wet walk.
unless you got a very fast dog team with floats on the sled.
Yeah.
Well, it would seem, probably during kind of around Blueberry Festival might be, and we did talk about, maybe around the 21st of June. And then we had talked about connecting it with Sisters in Spirit or Missing and Murdered Women, but May is the month. It's going to be too cold and icy still for that.
So June or August or October, we were thinking, or September maybe.
Should we do September or August just so the town beach can be open?
Ha! Is it going to be open in August?
It better be.
The ice will be gone. No.
We had a meeting today and we're putting our timelines together, but in all hope, we're hopeful that it'll be open for the summer, if not mid-July.
Okay. Yes, Joyce.
I think Blueberry would be good just because there's a lot of people around and you'll get more participation, I think. And people are looking for stuff to do that week. That'd be my thought anyways.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, Blueberry Festival is usually held for 10 days, beginning of August. So usually August the 10th.
I'll tell you what the dates are.
I don't know what the dates are.
The first weekend, I think, is the 30th, 31st of July.
Okay.
And then the last weekend is the 6th, 7th. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the starts on the long weekend in August, the civic holiday.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So shall we put in an event page? If everybody wants to do it during the Blueberry Festival, we'd have to put in an event with that Blueberry Committee or whatever they're called.
Yeah, I think that's how it goes through. Christine Hoy could give the details on that, I think.
Okay. And which committee member is coordinating what for the event? If that's what we're gonna do during the Blueberry Festival, I think it would be nice. I don't know what everybody else thinks. I'm trying to look at August here. See here. On the weekend, it's August 6th, 7th. That's Saturday and Sunday. I don't know what day you would want to have it on, if everybody's free on a weekday or better on a weekend. I don't know.
So what sort of things do we want to do?
Well, I think the first thing that we could do is maybe have a sunrise ceremony at
Hmm.
the Rotary Park
That would be
that,
nice.
that day, because we're reflecting on the history of why that happened, where that island is, and why it's where women and children were taken to be safe, right? During the, I don't know what's on the chat there, but yeah. So I think that would be a great beginning to have a sunrise ceremony.
Mhm.
Now, who would be doing that? I don't know. We'd have to put out the word. Yes, Mayor.
What if we
Basi-
partner? Sorry.
Have Michelle better pay attention here and guide me otherwise. I'm just wondering if the municipality, and I could work with Chief Bull on this, that we might work on a canoe event or from the
Yeah,
town dock
we're getting there.
out and around the island and back, and
Yeah.
could work on, bring your own canoe and or arrange. The municipality we still have canoes out at Cedar Bay, don't we? Or have access to canoes, Michelle?
I believe so. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to
Just-
follow up.
we
Joyce
can
may
work-
already know.
Yeah, we can work on that, but it might be something that could be suitable for the municipality to do, given we have the dock and the canoes, and Chief Bull and I did do a canoe together before, but I'm thinking this, as we said, this needs to involve women, because that's what this is about, right? But so Michelle, what do you think of is that being one of the things that are done?
Sure.
Okay, all right. Not very often I get my way like that. Good.
So
We're live, so it's hard to say no.
okay, so the main idea is for canoes to leave from the dock to go around the island, but
Yes, we'll circumnavigate Equiminis, Michipicoten, and come back several weeks later. No, just Equiminis.
laissez-faire.
Is that the first? Is that the first island you see from the beach?
Yeah.
Okay.
That
Maybe we
would-
can have a swim around it.
Well,
Tri-
since
triathlon.
Joyce, since it is women we're talking about, you are the municipal swimmer. Then very good, thank you.
I'll see if Florence Wellner's interested, and we can drop us at one side. We'll just do the circle. I don't think we could make it from the. I don't think we could make it from the dock. Anyway,
That's where the rubber dinghy comes in.
yeah,
Pick everybody up.
you could do the swim event. That could be the swim event, Doug. You
I
do
think
every-
I think we use in the Blueberry Festival rubber duckies. That's what's going to come out and rescue you, Joyce. Is a rubber
Okay,
ducky.
sounds good.
Oh, I mean, this is really tacky, but there's those great big blow-up swans and pelicans and things like that. We could have a flotilla of blow-up birds going around the island, as well as canoes.
Yeah.
But I like
And I think we want to maintain some dignity. On the other hand, it's also a celebration, so we could have a bit of both, right?
Yeah.
And then
I like the idea of starting with a sunrise ceremony, so I think that would be
yeah,
really lovely. So a sunrise ceremony and some storytelling, and then like a little breakfast feast or something,
mhm.
and then do the canoe thing later in the day.
Yeah, we could do it at 2 separate times, I guess. And how would we? I'm trying to think of how we would do the event itself. I guess somebody would have to open it, and then if they come when people come back from the canoeing, then what happens? Do we have cake or something, or speeches, or shall we have a display maybe of some of the history, handout of the history? I don't know.
Hmm.
Who do we involve too? Would the Friendship Center be willing to do something? Would the Winks, the youth, be able to do something? Maybe they would want to be involved too.
Oh,
They would probably want to canoe around. I know they do some outdoor activities, so I'm not sure if they have canoes.
mhm.
And it would be good to involve some of those young people.
Yeah, and First Step Women's Shelter and Equewok and Onwa Sunset Women's.
Yeah.
They
You mentioned Equewok. I just had to get that in there because Equewok,
Women's.
women's.
It's
Thank
gonna
you,
be all
Darlene.
right.
Thank you for your
Just
engagement. Thank you for coming up with another one.
Yeah, equi can be spelled different ways. Like when they have a certain, I think it's IKWE.
yeah,
That might be spelled that way too.
yeah.
So, but here it's being spelled with like a equivoc.
Mhm.
Yes, Mayor.
Can I suggest that we, one of the things we need to do is put a placeholder on the date with the Blueberry Festival Committee and find out what the final date for submitting is an event and the details. I think we have a bit of time,
Yeah.
not much. I would think by our next meeting, we should have made our decisions, but Michelle could find out. Oh, you know already, Michelle? Thanks.
No, I don't know already, but through you, Chair, I attend the regular monthly chamber meetings, and some of the people on the board are also heavily involved in the Blueberry Festival. So that meeting is next Wednesday, so I can follow up with them and get that information for the committee and then send it out.
Okay.
So are we thinking of like a Saturday or like a Saturday?
That's what I was thinking. I was wondering if it would be easier for people on a Saturday or a Sunday. Saturday, maybe.
Yeah, and I was going to say the first weekend is usually the weekend when all kinds of interesting stuff happen, and then it kind of calms down during the week. So I mean, if we did it on the Monday or something, and we'd get a fair bit of participation, I would think.
Okay.
Just thinking of people who are working, but a sunrise ceremony and breakfast, then people could go to work, and then maybe in the after work, the afternoon could be the canoe round the island.
Isn't the Monday morning the triathlon though? And there's a pancake breakfast after? Yeah. So that might be
breakfast. Yeah.
Yeah, so that might be overlapping. I'm not sure. If we do like a pancake breakfast or some kind of breakfast.
Yes, Mayor.
One of the things I think that Michelle could come back with is the calendar of typical events. And as Candace said, there's some that are more or less the same time every year. So you want to pick which ones you're going to conflict with, or maybe work with, so that it might enhance our event too when people are already there. And some events might take up, now the town beach is coming back, some take up more time at the town beach than others. I'm not sure if there's anybody does anything at the park, Rotary Park, I guess is what we're talking about, is it? For the sunrise ceremony, or where we think?
It's usually pretty free, I think, or has been.
So I think that the day, we'd want to pick the day based on other events, as Candace has said.
Mhm.
I think Michelle might be able to, after that meeting next week, have a pretty good idea, and we could target in on a day.
Yeah.
So next Wednesday. Okay. Michelle will come back with the better idea for us. And which committee member is coordinating what for the event? So
I just have one question. So are we doing two separate events? This
yeah, the sunrise.
ceremony? Okay, so then
The sunrise would be from 5 to 7, and I would
Okay.
say the canoe trip would probably be around 12 or 1.
okay, so we want to pick one day to do two of those events.
Yeah.
Okay.
And which committee member is coordinating what for the event? So I guess the sunrise would need, yes, Mayor?
Well, no, not the sunrise. I'm happy to work with Michelle to coordinate the canoe event. And anybody, if somebody else wants to help, that's fine.
Okay.
Not hearing any objections, I think I got that through. And Joyce will do the swim event. I heard that earlier. So.
Maybe they used to have a swim where they started at the island
Wow.
and the people, they swam to the town beach, but it wasn't that hard because you're swimming with the current.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we could revive that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. That was a big deal apparently way back
Oh,
in the 60s and 70s, yeah.
Mhm.
Except it wasn't called the Equeminus swim, it had the other name to it, which so anyway. I'll see if it's feasible for to do any swimming. I think you need to drop the swimmers out at the island and then they swim around, because I think it's pretty far to go out there and then back. It's a couple of kilometers, I think.
yeah, it's quite far.
Anyway, I'll think about it. I'll talk to my swim buddies and see.
Okay.
The Equeminus Cocum swim.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So
okay.
who would be invited to do the sunrise ceremony or opening ceremony?
We would have to invite elder, I guess. Elders, traditional people who would come out to do it. And we'd have to let them know what it's about that day too. And yeah, so whenever there's a sunrise, people usually show up. They just show up, and women wear skirts, and to honor the day. So you usually get there around 4:30, and then they set up. I've seen them set up tables before for, especially with the Orange Shirt Day stuff. Not the Orange Shirt Day, but I mean, I forget what that was, but the park where the orange shirt display was.
Yeah.
Memorial
So we
display.
did the memorial for the
Yeah.
150. Yeah.
And then people bring out the food, and they bring out muffins and Tim's big jugs of things, juice, and they usually had a fire where people could offer tobacco. So somebody will bring a fire pit, and I think I forget, and maybe a drum. So we'd have to give tobacco to people to come, the elder to come say the prayer, and the drummers to come out. So I don't know. Can we put Victor in charge of that? Seeing as he's got all the connections for the traditional people.
Yeah, but I'd like to wait till I find out more,
Yeah. Okay.
like an exact date.
Yeah.
because I have some things in mind already about
Okay.
how it should be done, and I guess gotta find the people to fill those roles, but I don't want to go ahead and
Yeah. Not
do
start with.
anything yet till I know what date.
Okay.
Mhm.
We'll keep you in mind then for that, and then other committee members could probably help too.
I'd certainly help with, food for,
Yeah.
if we were doing a breakfast after I can help with that.
Getting stuff there, even just driving stuff there would help. Okay. And then the mayor and Michelle will come back to us next Wednesday to start talking about the dates. And I guess we'll need a poster, our own poster, which will say the sunrise ceremony and then what'll happen at the beach. So, and that'll be coming from the Truth and Reconciliation Committee.
Mhm.
And I guess we should be asking other organizations if they want to participate. Like when I said the Winks for the youth, start asking organizations if you want to come and participate in that event.
Once we have the dates,
Mm-hmm.
Then I can reach out to Winks and all the other organizations. Once we have a date, I'll send an email to all of them, and I'll CC you and Michelle.
Okay. Yes, Eileen?
No, didn't say anything. Sorry.
Okay, you're
Joyce is waving.
all right. I guess that's it. We'll wait.
Joyce has her hand up.
Hi, Joyce. Yes.
Darlene, do you know any Anishinaabe women who like to swim that we could pull into this stunt? I know. Kathy Loon's granddaughter.
Oh, really?
Is she's a champion. I don't know, there's an idea.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I wonder if there's any older women that might like to give it a try.
I've never really taken note of anybody who's into swimming.
Yeah, I can't think.
Kayaking, maybe.
They could come as our guide. They could be the lifesavers.
Even me, I've got kayak. I've got two kayaks.
Okay, you could go as one of the, whatever we call them, monitor. Anyway, we'll see if we can. I don't know if I don't know if it's going to be realistic, but we'll see.
Yeah, that would be something, eh? The swimming challenge.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll leave that event for now, and as more details will come with the date, and I guess we can select a date at the next meeting, or we can look at the emails and see what we're gonna do. All right, that gives us a few months. Okay. Now can we move on then to number 9, the work plan? There's nothing new to report on the work plan for April.
Yeah,
So,
nothing has changed.
okay, so that's good. Yep. And our next meeting date is Tuesday, May 24th. Monday is a holiday that day. I mean, on the 23rd, Victoria Day. So next meeting is Tuesday, May 24th. So that's okay with everybody? Yep. Okay, so motion to adjourn. Anybody want to make the motion? Mario moves it. And
I'll second.
seconded. Okay, Candace seconds it. Okay, then we'll see you in May on Tuesday, 24th. Thank you for coming. And
Thanks, everybody.
yeah, great meeting. Yeah, okay.
Thanks, Chair.